Bigelow Tea Company's journey through B Corp certification. So I'm just looking at it through our eyes. So some of the things I might say, and especially for some of you that are B Corp certified, you might have a different view on some of these things. So I'm not saying our way is right, or the way we approach is right and someone else's way is wrong. I'm just telling you this is what our journey was. So it's just what our experience was. The good, and I don't want to say the bad, but there were some challenges there. So it's our journey. For those of you that are not familiar with what B Corp certification is, I didn't really prepare any slides on that. B Corp certification is just a certification you get through B Lab that basically certifies all the good things a company says they do, they actually are doing. All right, so we'll get more into that in a little bit, but that's basically what it does, and it fits in with a lot of other stuff. I was on the presentation earlier today about conscious capitalism, and that's those two things kind of go hand in hand. So this is anyway just a little bit about our journey through the B Corp certification process. All right, so I'm just going to talk about a couple of things, why we decided to become a certified B Corp, what some of the steps are, what some of the challenges were, what some of the lessons learned that we found out, some of the benefits that we saw to being a B Corp, and then I'll take some questions. So I'll try not to bore you too much. I got only about 10 slides to go through. So, why did we decide to become a B Corp? There's lots of reasons you can become a B Corp. And again, I'm not saying that the reasons we did it is the right way. Lots of people have their own reasons, but these are the reasons we did it. So it wasn't because we thought consumers would think better of us. It wasn't because we thought we could sell more tea. It wasn't because it was trendy. We did it because we just want to be better. And then there's a couple of you on the phone call that know Cindy Bigelow, so you are probably aware of some of her philosophies and the way she thinks. And she just wants us to be, a better company. So that was really the reason we did it. So, yes, there probably are some consumers that think better of us. Yes, we probably did sell some more tea, although you would never have any way of really being able to quantify that. And no, we didn't do it because it was trendy, but we did do it because it did offer us some tools so we could become a better company. So I'm not going to go through all this. This is just the point of this slide is to show that, this isn't something new to us. This is just our sustainability slide, our timeline, but, things we're doing in the community with our employees, with our vendors. It's not anything new. We've been doing this stuff. This timeline starts in 1986, but a lot of this stuff goes back to, back to the 60s and the 70s. This is all new stuff. It's all stuff that we've been doing. So we just kind of looked at that B Corp certification process as just one more step along the way for our journey. If you talk to Cindy Bigelow and you talk to her about these things, if you talk to her about sustainability, if you talk to her about the community, talk to her about employees, those types of things, these are frequent things that you will hear her say. All right. She wants the company to be the best that we can be. We don't have the unlimited assets to do things that lots of other companies might have, the ability to do. Yes, we do big projects. We did put solar panels on our building, about 10 years ago. So that's a big thing we do. But it's all about just being the best that we can be. And she'll say that to the employees when we're talking about, what they can do. We're not asking everybody to be, Harvard graduate. We just want them to be the best that they can be and do the best that they can do for the company. She'll say we want to be a little bit better today than we were yesterday and a little bit better tomorrow than we are today. It's just all about making small improvements. And yes, again, we can do big things, like solar panels, or we could make and decide we're going to invest in all green, energy, renewable energy. Those are some bigger things we could do. But if we do a little project with, employee awareness about things like, vampire energy, and making sure that you turn your computer monitor off before you go home at night, or just little things like that. All those things add up, and they're just going to make us a little bit better today than we were yesterday, a little bit better tomorrow than we are today. And at the end of the day, we look at all these things. It's just the right thing to do. So there's some of these things here sort of fit in what I heard earlier today in the presentation on conscious capitalism that we had earlier today. But those are kind of I don't want to say our guiding principles, because there's a lot to that statement, but just these are just kind of the way we think. All right. I'm not going to bore you with the whole story of the hummingbird, but the story of the hummingbird is kind of an interesting story. It just speaks to, the thought process of how, little things do make a difference. And again, it speaks to some of those things we talked about before. We just want to be the best that we can be, do what we can do. I'm not going to bore you with the story, but if you Google the story of the hummingbird, you'll find a bunch of videos. I'll take you 2 or 3 minutes to go through, and it'll kind of talk about that. But it kind of speaks to, again, just being the best that we can be and doing what we can do, what's within our control, because we can't control everything. So the way our journey evolved, it looks like it took a long time. I said, geez, Bob, you started in 2013. You didn't get it until 2019. That's an awful long time. Things move slowly sometimes. And again, we just look at it as a journey, and we don't always know what we don't know. So in about 2013 or so, Cindy Bigelow became aware of this new thing called B-Corps. She wasn't sure what they were. She heard a little bit about this assessment tool. And she says, geez, what can we do to use that assessment tool to make us a better company? So we dabbled in it, and we did some things, but we really didn't have much success with the tool. And it's just because we didn't have any one person that could coordinate it. So I've told this to Gavin and Glen before, but this sounds worse than it is. But the way the family looks at things is when we expect employees to do lots of things and wear lots of different hats. First of all, it's good so that they know more things about the business than just their one little area. But two, they don't want to invest in hiring new people, and then we have a bad year and we have to lay people off. So we expect people to wear multiple hats. And when I say we want to push them until it breaks, we don't mean that in a bad way. But like with our sustainability efforts and there, we had lots of people wearing bits and pieces of that hat. So everyone was doing a little bit, and that's lots of employees still do, but we didn't really have anybody leading up that effort. So that's why we didn't really have much success with that assessment, because if the responsibility fell on lots of different areas. Some was in finance, some was in supply chain, some was in manufacturing, some was in procurement. So we didn't really have anyone really leading that effort, so to speak. So in 2014, for a variety of reasons, lots of reasons, Cindy, we kind of figured out that, we weren't really going to be able to get much farther. Obviously, we could have got much farther, I don't mean it that way, but if we want to make a leap in the way we were doing with our corporate responsibility and our sustainability efforts, that we're going to have to create a position for someone to oversee all that. So the vice president of corporate responsibility position was created in 2014. I was the first vice president of corporate responsibility. Prior to that, I was the vice president of supply chain. If you read my bio, you know that the only place I've ever worked is Bigelow, so I know Bigelow as well as anyone. So Cindy figured I would be the best person, even though I didn't necessarily have a background in sustainability or all the other stuff that, some people that have that position, other companies might have. She felt that I was the best person to lead it because I knew how the company worked. Knew how all the departments worked. I could, weave in and out of the different departments and kind of help pull things together. So that's kind of how we got that position. And then I looked at that B Corp assessment. I hadn't really seen it before. And I looked at that as a way, because I didn't have obviously I knew what all of our efforts were. I knew what we were doing to save energy and, where we're trying to, reduce our waste and all that good kind of stuff. But I didn't really had no idea what that looked like formally. So that B Corp assessment became a really good tool for me to figure out what good looked like and, help develop that position for what that was going to look like. And also, give us the blueprint for other things we might want to do. So that was the next step on the journey. Then after I looked at this assessment, and I'll talk about that a little bit, but used it and kind of got an idea what our score was. I said, this is something we really could do for sure. So I made several presentations, and not all of them were successful. As I say there, to our executive team and the board of directors on what a certified B Corp was and why we should become one. So when I say they weren't successful, that might have had something to do with the way I present it, but it's just, again, it's just an evolution. When Cindy was on board with everything we were talking about, but her parents might not have been on board. It's not that they didn't support it, but they would say, we're already doing this. Why do we need to do this? Why do we need to become certified? Why do we have to do all that? It's not going to, it's already who we are. But we got them to realize, because we basically said, we're doing all this work anyway, we might as well get recognized for it. And again, it's going to help us. So it took a little bit of a couple different meetings with the board of directors and the executive team, but we got them to buy into it. In 2017, we became a benefit corporation. That's one of the steps to becoming a certified B Corp. And in 2019, we finally got all the points we needed to become a certified a B Corp, to get our B Corp certification. So just some backgrounds on the steps that you need to go through to become a certified B, and then I'll talk to you about how our steps went. If it's something you are interested, you want to get that certification, you want to educate yourself and the company on the process, because there's a lot to go through. You need the support of a lot of people. You need a lot of data collection, a lot of self-reflection on what you're doing and where you want to go. And, educating everyone is really where it needs to start. You need to take the assessment. They have an assessment. The assessment is free. Anyone can use the assessment. You don't have to become certified or want to be on that process to use their assessment tool. But you have to take that assessment. It's about 150 questions. I'll go into that in a little bit more detail in a minute, and get a minimum score of 80 points. Don't think of 80 points as being a B- like you did when you're in high school or college. It takes a lot to get to 80 points. Then you have to submit that assessment to B Lab when you get your 80 points, and then they're going to review it. And they might ask for backup on certain things. So if there's 150 questions in that assessment, they're not going to go over 150 questions, but they'll just pick and choose certain areas that they think they want to look a little bit more into. And then they'll just ask you where your backup is for that. And you have to answer some questions and for whatever they want. And then they'll determine if your answers were correct or if they met their criteria. Okay, once you are certified, once you've got your 80 points, your CO signs a declaration of interdependence. So all that is that you're just signing on that you're just at the highest level. If the CEO agrees to live by all the B Corp things, you're going to support other B Corp companies. You're going to do continuous improvement. You're going to do all the stuff that they ask you to do. You have to pay a fee. That fee is depends on it's a sliding scale based on your revenue. So if you're a $200,000 revenue company doing making widgets, your fee might be to certification might be $500. If you're a $100 million company, $200 million company, your fee might be $25,000, but it's based on revenue. And then once you get certified, it's not over. You got to get recertified every 3 years. So our recertification is due next April. So we will be starting that recertification journey probably next month. So the journey really begins with the B Corp handbook. So they've got this, I presume you guys can see this handbook. You can get this handbook from B Corp, and that tells you everything you would need to know about it. It gives you some things to think about. And then it has this short assessment where it might ask you 4 or 5 questions on the different areas. So like under compensation, do you pay a living wage to employees, including part-time and independent contractors? You say yes or no. This is under the worker impact. Do you offer retirement plans such as a 401k or pension plan and or profit sharing plan? And are they the same benefit for all employees from the janitor all the way up to the owner? Those types of questions. It's just kind of like just like a litmus test. And then it scores you at the end. This is really simple. It's only on these 2 pages. It's not a lot of work. You just answer them real quick. And it says if you scored 0 to 3, you got some work to do. You might want to, rethink about what your processes are before you start the certification journey. If you get 4 to 6, you're probably a good candidate for it, but you still have a little bit of work to do. If you get 7 to 5, you're in really good shape. And then they'll have that for all the different areas. There's like 6 different areas, which again, I'll go on into in a minute. Then once you do that, you might want to just list your assets and your liabilities. And I'm not talking about financial assets and financial liabilities, just in the areas of your corporate responsibility and the things that they're asking for, how you treat your workers, how you treat the community, what your supply chain looks like. What are your assets and your liabilities? So, are you, do you have energy reduction plans in place? If you have energy reduction plans, are you keeping track of your energy usage, your waste usage, those types of things? So those are things you're going to need when you go to actually do the assessment. And then what are your potential liabilities, mainly the stuff that you may not have. Do you have a supplier code of conduct? No. Well, that might be a liability because they're going to be looking for you to have one. So you might want to kind of know that going in and figure out where you're strong and where you're weak, because you're going to need to shore your weak areas up a little bit. Then you got to decide if you're ready for that B Corp journey. So again, a lot of people, like we did at first, we just used that assessment just to kind of figure out, what good looked like and where we might want to be, projects we might want to do down the road to make us a better company. But once you decide that, time is on your side. There's no need to rush. It's not like, I contacted B Corp and they gave me the book and now I have to do this all in 3 months. You could do this in 3 months. You could do it in 6 months. You could do it in 3 years. You might not decide to do it at all, to pursue certification, but you might just say, I'm just going to use that assessment and get my score, and it'll show me where I'm strong and where I'm weak. And it'll just give me other stuff to do, but I don't necessarily want to go through all the process of certification. And that's okay. Lots of people do that. You also are going to want to make sure if it is something you're going to want to pursue, again, it all depends on whose idea it was to do this, because if it starts off at the top, then you don't necessarily have to get buy-in from company leadership. But if you're a operations manager and you're thinking this is something you might want to do for your company, this isn't something you could do on your own. You really need to have buy-in from the company leadership, because there's some things that they're going to have to buy into, some decisions they're going to have to make. So it's not something you could, necessarily do on your own. So you're going to want to get them their buy-in. And then if you're going to do it, you want to assemble a team. And some of you might say, well, why you have that at the end? You should have done that at the beginning. You could do it at the beginning too. It all depends on how you want to do it. So for me, I didn't have a team at the beginning. I want to kind of go through all that stuff and figure out where I needed to be on my journey for this position, right? As opposed to if it had started at the top and Cindy says, okay, we're going to do this, and so then I'm going to assemble a team, and I'm going to have someone from finance, someone from sales, someone from operations, and someone from the T division. And she puts a team together to go and look at it. It could go either way, but at some point you're going to need a team of people to help you do this, because there's a lot of data collection you have to do. And then you just got to start that assessment. That assessment is approximately 150 questions. It's got 5 sections that it asks you different things about. So One section is on governance. So governance questions might be, how is your ownership structure? Is it individual own it? Is it a LLC? Is it a public company? Is it an employee-owned company? Is it a co-op? Those types of things. Do you have a board of directors? Yes or no? You have a board of directors. Do you have outside board members, or is all inside employees are on the board of directors? Do you have board of director members that are from the community? Those types of things would fall under governance. And you get different points for all those different things. So if like you're an employee-owned company, you're going to get more points than if you're a privately owned company. If you're a public owned company, you're probably going to get less points than a privately owned company. But things like that. There's a section in there on workers. So it talks about, how do you treat your workers? What benefits do they have? Do you have how many employees are being paid a living wage? What are your health benefits? What does your health benefit program look like? Does the entry-level employee have the same health benefits as the CEO? Those types of questions. Same way for the retirement plans. Do you have one retirement plan for the hourly workers in the plant, and do you have another one for the executive team, or is it they're all one? Obviously, where everything is the same for everyone, within reason. You get more points for that. How many temporary employees you have versus permanent employees. So I'm not really talking about seasonal businesses, because there are seasonal businesses where you're going to have a lot of temporary employees because most of your business only happens at Christmas time or whatever. But if you're a regular company like ours that employs 400 people, they're going to want to see that you have more full-time workers than temporary workers. Environment, do you have are you measuring your energy usage? Do you have goals to improve your energy, to reduce your energy usage? Do you capture your carbon footprint? Those types of things. Do you have a waste reduction program? If you have air conditioners, you have programs in place to do maintenance on your air conditioners so there's not leaking freon into the atmosphere. Those types of things. Supply chain just speaks to your suppliers. All right. Where do you buy your product from? Suppliers can also fall under community because I don't remember if it was in our community or supply chain. I think it might have been our community, but do you buy locally or do you buy from China? Obviously, tea we have to buy from overseas from countries like China, but you do get more points if you have local suppliers. So we have a lot of local suppliers that we do for some of our packaging material, so you get more points for that. Supply chain also speaks to like when we're buying our tea from overseas, do we have programs or processes in place to oversee how they're treating their labor, right? So you get more points for that. So if you're selling Rainforest Alliance certified teas, you might get more points than if you don't. If you sell organic teas, you might get more points than if you don't. If your materials that you're buying are made with, like all of our materials, 99% of them are made with water-based inks. So all of our tea boxes are printed with water-based inks. You might get more points than if your inks are printed with solvents. And then it's, what does your suppliers do, right? So you have all those questions in all those different areas. Then there's a sixth area, which they call an impact business model, which doesn't fit all companies, right? So that applies to companies that have a specific product or service that addresses social needs. So what do I mean by that? So if you're a company that you make solar panels, you might get more, that might be considered an impact business model. If you have a company that its product line makes some type of water purification processes or items that can clean up the water, that would be an impact business model that has a social impact. If you're a financial service company, but you're not really a big bank, but you specialize in community outreach banks to make sure that underserved areas in Bridgeport, New Haven, and Hartford have access to financial services, and that is your model. Okay, that would be an example of an impact business model. All right, so we don't have that, so we couldn't get any points for that for Bigelow, but that is an area that that some companies do. Okay, the questions are weighted. So, not all questions are created equal. And then not all questions, believe it or not, you actually get points for. So some questions they just ask and they just want to know if you're doing this, yes or no, but they're pretty much because they expect everyone to be doing certain things. So, but not all questions you get points for, but the questions are weighted. So that earlier question about if you're an employee owned business, that might get 6 points versus if you're a privately held business, you might get 2 points. Things like that. Best practices and tips. So when you're doing the survey or doing the assessment and you're going through it and he's just like, I don't really know. We got a bad score. I don't know what to do. There's a section in there that you could pull. So let's say take carbon footprint. Well, no, we don't do a carbon footprint. I wouldn't even know how to do it. Okay, well then they'll tell you that, well, carbon footprint's the best practice and here's the tips on how you can do it. Right, so it can help you improve your score and help you become a better company. So, and those best practices and tips, you see those right away. You don't have to wait till you get the score at the end and say, oh, here's where you failed and here's all the stuff you need to do to improve. You'll see those in that assessment as you go along. So if you have questions about a carbon footprint, no, we never did one before, what does that look like? You could just look there now and you might be able to say, oh, I can do that, which I'll talk about in a minute with some stuff that we did. And at the end of the day, a score of 80 is your goal. That's what you want to get. So out of those 150 questions, you want to get 80 points. And again, you don't want to think of 80 as being a B minus. It is a stretch to get 80 points. It's not that easy. So don't think of it as like a ABC type grade. All right. Some challenges and lessons learned from our perspective. Again, everyone might have a different point of view if they do it. You want to work quickly through the questions on that assessment to get your preliminary score. When there's 150 of them, it's easy to get wrapped up in like some questions are really hard and you're not really sure what you want to do, but it's not like you're taking a test and you get to the end, you can't go back. Here you can always go back, but you kind of want to work through it really quickly and get that preliminary score just to see where you're at. Because at the end of the day, that's what it will help you, in our opinion, from our experience, help you get through it. The next one, be curious about the scoring. So you're going to see scores on there and you're not really going to know, well, geez, I only got a 0. Geez, that's not so good. I only got 0.1. I only got a half a point. Well, what's the deal with that? So you want to be curious about that scoring. So, and say yes, even if the answer is no. So I showed this to someone earlier today when I was running through my presentation. And they said, Bob, are you saying we should cheat? And no, I'm not saying you should cheat. What I'm saying is, take, for instance, we had not calculated our carbon footprint. So when it says, have you ever calculated your carbon footprint? I said, no. So we got a big fat 0, right? So, I moved on in the assessment of this, that, and the other thing, kept on going. Well, I had an intern that was working for me and she had a background. She went to the Yale sustainability program and she knew a little bit about carbon footprint. And she was helping me with this and she just took it upon her own. She just said, I wonder what happens if you say yes. So she said yes, not to change the score, but when you say yes, because no one had told us this, once you say yes, it opens up a whole other set of questions. So I said no, so it just ended. It says, okay, you don't have a carbon footprint, keep on going. But when you say yes, the next one will be, well, do you measure scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 emissions? Do you have a plan for reducing your emissions? Do you do this, that, and the other thing? So she came back to me and she says, Bob, I know we don't do a carbon footprint, but they're not asking for the full scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. If we just say we're doing scope 2, and we can do scope 2, and I apologize, sometimes I get my scope 1, 2, 3 mixed up, but I believe scope 2 is the emissions from basically the energy that we consume, right? So she says, we already measure how much electricity we're using. We already know how much natural gas we're using. All we got to do is call up the power company and ask them, can they convert that to the greenhouse gas? And then we'll have our carbon footprint for our scope 2. So we did that, and yeah, we didn't get the full. If let's say there was 5 points for doing your full scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, and you had all the other stuff, but we got a half a point. And it made us better because now we know, okay, we saw that, okay, that's because before, calculating your carbon footprint might be this big, scary thing. You might say, that sounds like a lot of work. How would you even go about doing it? But by her saying yes and opening up that box and getting all those other questions, then we kind of realized, oh, we could do some of those things. And we did get some points. And again, it showed us other stuff we could do. The same way with, do you have a supplier code of conduct? We didn't have a supplier code of conduct. We said no, 0 points. Say yes, opens it up, and here's 5 other things. Show us your supplier code of conduct, and then do you have a process for communicating it to your vendors once a year, and then do you have a process for if there is some violation of the code of conduct? So again, we looked at it, and they give us in those tips and tools that they give you a sample of what a code of conduct looks like. So we said, what, we could do that. So, we took, I worked with our purchasing department. I worked for our tea division who does all the procurement of the teas. And, over the next course of a couple of weeks, we developed a supplier code of conduct. So at least we had something to start with. So now we can say, yes, we do have a code of conduct, and that started to make us better. So yes, we didn't get the full 2 points. We might have only got a half a point, but we did get points. So again, to make it, long story short, just say yes, even if the answer is no, because you obviously, if the answer is still no, you're going to go back and change it to no. You're not going to, I'm not saying fib, but it opens up your eyes. That's just how that assessment works. Be realistic with what you can accomplish in the short term and the long term, because it's so easy when you're doing to say, okay, we can do all these things. But you can't do them all. And yes, I take that back. You probably could do them all, but it might take you 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years to do all that, and then you still won't be certified. So just be realistic with what you accomplish in the short term and long term, and just say, I'm happy just creating that supplier code of conduct, and then in next year after we do that, then we'll work on the next steps to that. Same way with the carbon footprint. All right. So just be realistic about what you can accomplish in the short run and the long term. Don't get frustrated by what you perceive as unfair scoring, which I did because it just ticked me off. All of our employees are eligible for a bonus at Bigelow. All right. All of our employees are eligible for health insurance. When it comes to the health insurance, as far as I'm concerned, any employee that wants health insurance can have it. Some employees, for whatever reason, they choose not to get the health insurance because they might be over 65 and maybe they're on Medicare. They might be on their spouse's plan, whatever. They're not on our plan. All right. But as far as I'm concerned, they could have it if they want it. We'll give it to them. Same way with a bonus. All of our employees are eligible for a bonus. It doesn't make any difference who you are. Every employee is eligible for a bonus. The only thing is you have to be here, I think, at least 6 months to get the bonus. So when they ask the question, how many employees have health insurance? Well, only 90% of our employees have health insurance. So we didn't get the full points for that. How many of your employees were paid a bonus? Well, not every employee got paid a bonus because not everyone was here 6 months when we did the assessment, but they're all eligible for it. So in my mind, I got really frustrated by that scoring because we didn't get the full points, because in my mind, we would never, who's going to get to 100%? Because there's always going to be, unless we don't hire anyone for like the last 6 months of the year, we can never get to 100% payout on our bonus, or unless we never had any turnover in the last 6 months. So again, it just frustrated us. But when we talked to the B Corp people about it, try to reason with them, they said, listen, that's just the assessment. That's what we ask everybody to live up to. It's just the way it is. It's the same for everybody. We're not picking on you, but it is easy to get frustrated by some of that scoring in the assessment. You need 80 points, but you need a cushion. You got to have at least 85, in my opinion, before you want to submit for that review, because you're going to lose points in the review. And the way I explained to everyone is when they're going through the review, there's going to be some stuff that they don't like, or they might have a different point, like that bonus, and you're going to lose some points. It's just like when you go to the IRS and you get audited. You're going to go in and they're going to, no matter what, you're going to end up paying more taxes. Maybe you thought you had the most pristine return. You're going to have to pay up a little more taxes, because that's what they're looking for, to find things that they can take points away. You want to have 85 points, so you have a little bit of a cushion there. Okay. And then last is just don't be obsessed about your score compared to other companies, especially other companies that are in the same business that you are. Because first of all, you just want to be the best that you can be. And we want to be the best that we can be. So maybe they've been at it longer. Maybe that's why they got more points. But they might have got more points because they're an employee-owned company and we're not. And you get an extra, like I said, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, 9 points extra for that. It might be that they have, a different business, their impact model for their products. So you get more points if you only sell organic products. Well, we don't sell only organic products, so we can't get as many points as some of our competitors can get. Some tea companies only sell fair trade teas. Well, we sell fair trade teas, but not all of our teas are fair trade, so we don't get as many points. There's lots of reasons. So you don't want to get obsessed about that score and say, geez, we only did and I think our score was like an 83 or an 84 at the end of the day. And some of our competitors were up around 100. That doesn't mean they're better than us. They might be better than us. We could learn from them, but at the end of the day, we just have to be the best that we can be, because I can't control what they do. And if you're really that really competitive type, like we have some people on our team, but we got to be better than them. Okay, but some of these things we can't, it's out of our control. We're not going to become, the Bigelows aren't going to say, well, let's just become an employee-owned company tomorrow so we get, 10 more points. That's not realistic. So just want to be the best that you can be. So those are some of our challenges and lessons learned. Okay. So I just want to talk a little bit about, one of the things you have to do to become a B Corp is you have to become a benefit corporation. And that where it depends on what state you're in. Not all states have benefit corporation available to them. I think there's like 30 states that do. Okay. But I wished whoever developed the benefit corporation wording would have called it something different, because they call it a benefit corporation. And then you're a certified B Corp. So everyone thinks that the B stands for benefit, which it probably does, but then people get mixed up with a benefit corporation, a certified B. Aren't they the same thing? And no, they're two different things. A benefit corp is just the legal status. It's similar to an LLC or an S Corp. It's just how you are incorporated. All right. And I'll talk about that more in a minute. But a certified B Corp, okay, it's just similar to other certifications. It's like kosher certification, organic, fair trade, ISO, LEED, SQF certification. All it does is that it just certifies all the good work you claim you're doing. It's actually happening. This is what that does. The first part is the legal part. The certification is just the good work. And the way I explain it to people is, you might not know everything that it takes to become ISO 5000 certified, or everything it takes to become organic certified, but you just know that if someone's organic certified, or your accountant, if your accountant is a certified accountant, you might not know all the stuff that goes into being a certified accountant, but I probably want to have a certified accountant over not certified. I don't know what the difference is exactly, but it's certified. Someone said that they've met a certain standard. That's good enough for me. So if you think about that the certification for the certified B, kind of think of it that way. So that benefit corp piece, so we became a benefit corp in 2017. Again, it's a legal status similar to an LLC. So really, it requires a vote by the board of directors and changing the bylaws. That's why I had a little bit of a hard time, getting it sold. But really, it's a legal term that refers to the company's commitment to more than just making a profit. Right. So that speaks to some of the same things that the conscious capitalism movement speaks to. Just your company's about more than just making a profit. And the reason they had to make a legal change, and again, I'm not a lawyer, so this is my interpretation of it. But the board of directors, their whole reason for being in most corporations is to increase shareholder value. Right. So their whole purpose of that board of directors and being on a board of directors is to make sure you're doing things and that the company's doing things to increase the value of the company for the shareholders. That's job number one, job number two, job number three. That's your whole job. I'm probably oversimplifying it, but that's what it is, right? So if you have a project you want to do and you want to do solar panels and you're going and it's going to have a 20-year payback, a board member might say, well, geez, that's not increasing shareholder value. We don't want to do that because I have a fiduciary responsibility to increase the shareholder value. So if I don't do that, I'm violating my my fiduciary responsibility, and I can be held liable. So basically all this does, it just takes that off their shoulders. So it allows them legally to look at other things so that they can make better decisions. They're more than just about profit oriented. We have things that we do, Bigelow, where, we could save a lot of money if we didn't, have some of the employee benefits we have, or if we didn't, purchase 100% renewable energy, or if we didn't, invest in the solar panels, we could probably be making a lot more money. And, a board of director member might look at that and say, oh, you shouldn't do that. But again, we're trying to do more than just, we're about more than just making a tea bag. It's more than just making a profit. So that's really what that speaks to. Okay. These other things are just stuff I've already talked about. You don't have to become certified B to become a benefit corporation. Anybody can become a benefit corporation, right? But it requires that self-assessment against a third-party standard. That B Corp assessment is one that most people use. And this last bullet point, at the end of the day, regarding, being a benefit corporation isn't what you say that matters, it's your actions. And the only reason I throw that in there is it says you require a self-assessment against a third-party standard. It doesn't say you have to get a good score. It just says you have to do it. So you could say, geez, I want to become a benefit corporation because it sounds really good, but I don't really have to do anything. But if I pay the $200 fee and I get it put in the bylaws, and I'm done. But it's really it's your actions that matter. So anyone can say that they're a benefit corporation, but that's why I want to take the extra step to become a certified B, right? Because they certify that we're doing all the stuff that we're doing. Okay, we're getting to the end here. What are the benefits about being a certified B Corp? So this is just from our perspective. Some are for the benefits for everyone, but what did we get out of it? So I'll go over some of the easier ones first. If you are a certified B Corp, then you have access to other certified B corporations. And that works out, well, because you have other like-minded companies that you could bounce off of, and you can look through companies, assessments, say, geez, these people did really good in their environmental piece. Let me see what they're doing. And then you could call them up and say, geez, we're having some problems. We'd like to do better with our waste management and get our, we go from zero waste to landfill to zero waste. We don't really know how to do it. Do you have any ideas? Right. So you have access to them to ask them for advice. Right. And then you have a responsibility, that's in that interdependence piece to support other B corporations and, help them out where you can, give them advice, do that type of stuff. So that's one thing. You recruiting tools, we all know just by reading the papers, the last couple of months where it's getting harder and harder to recruit employees. So, a lot of younger employees are looking for companies that are making a difference. They want to work for companies that are doing more than just, making a product and selling a product. They want to work. They want to work for, for companies that have, you know, values to, try to improve the environment. Have less waste, treat their employees better, all that good kind of stuff. So it could be a recruiting tool. Same way with marketing assists, they'll help you market your company a little bit better. But then they also have tools that really helped us. So, with some of our social media stuff that we're doing, uh, that are more, around the B Corp type stuff. So they have, some nice tools and toolboxes that you can use for that. But the big thing is these last two pieces, and then I think I'm done. And number one is the roadmap for future projects. So we went through that assessment and we said, wow, we got assessed, we got our certification, but we got a lot more stuff we could do. So it kind of gave me the roadmap for other things we wanted to do, right? So it made us figure out that there was a way that we could use 100% renewable energy and we could get Greenie certified, and all of our materials are, so it kind of gave us the roadmap for how that worked. It's helping us figure out how we could do that carbon footprint. It's not as hard as we thought it could be. So now we did our carbon footprint calculation a couple of years ago. We're redoing it again now, but we found out that it's not that hard. Now we want to try to move from zero waste to landfill to, move towards more waste reduction, because, recycling and composting is good, but if you could just eliminate it at the front end, then it's a whole lot better for the environment. So there's tools in there that can help us for that. But this last one is one of my favorite ones, and it's from actually something that happened yesterday. And let me just, but it was talked about earlier, the earlier presentation this afternoon, about conscious capitalism, and it's about, what's your company's, what is the purpose of your company, right? Is your purpose of the company, is our purpose to make tea bags and make money? Is that our purpose? Or, what is our purpose? And do the employees understand what their purpose is? So the Bigelow family has always kind of looked at it that, we have a bigger purpose than just making money and making tea. And, we look at it as, by making money and supply, hiring 400 people, we have a higher purpose where we could give people good jobs. Because, most of our competitors, they make their tea is packaged overseas and they're not making here. There's not too many people manufacturing in Fairfield, Connecticut. So we have, the way we look at it, we're supporting the community, we're supporting our employees, we're doing all that good kind of stuff. But then what I was talking about was with what I did yesterday, was the Bigelow family has a foundation. They don't really talk about it a lot, doesn't get a lot of press, because that's just the way they like to keep it. But they've got 4 or 5 summer camps in Bridgeport that they support, that I visited yesterday because I helped the Bigelows, with that. And they focus in on the areas of STEM, computer coding, some advanced manufacturing, robotics, but it's meant for the students in Bridgeport to see that there's something else that they can do, just kind of open up their eyes for what the future could look like for them if they focus in on different things. So we try to put programs in place that grab the kids when they're in just like middle school or early high school, for exposes them to, coding and manufacturing, robotics, that type of thing, so they can see what they do. So I went out, I go and visit the companies, the programs, to make sure that, see how they're spending the Bigelow's money, because it's, a lot of money we spend on that. They spend through their foundation. And I took an employee with me yesterday to go do that. So going through it, and you got, all these girls are, they're showing you all this coding that they're doing, and they're telling you a little bit about themselves, and you can see their big smiles on their face. And we started off with a coding project summer camp like 4 years ago. Then we decided, we needed not we, the Bigelow Tea, we didn't want to have next step. You want to have advanced coding, because once the girls do this, what's the next step? And then after that, what's the next step? So we got to manufacturing. And there was girls that went through the whole, this their 4th year, because last year doesn't really count because it was a COVID year, but they had kind of gone through all the programs, and then they were mentors to the younger kids. But I took one of our employees with us, and we were talking about it on the way back, and I said, those are, you contribute to that, because by you, doing the things you can to make sure we can make a good tea bag, and we have good product, and we have good sales, and the company makes money. Yes, it helps you because you get your paycheck, and you get your bonus, that kind of stuff, right? But also it allows the Bigelows to put money to invest money in the community and do this. So your efforts contributed to this. So that's your program as well. So we try to get, things like that, help the employees do that. And not so much that the B Corp certification does it, but it just reinforces that message. So we have 400 to 425 employees. Do they all get it? Do they all support it 100%? No. But you're never going to get 100% support of anything, right? You could try for it, but they do see it, and they're understanding it more, that there's a lot more that we can do. It's more than about making a tea bag. So with that said, I think I've spoken enough. I will take questions now. If you want to write down my information, or whatever, if you, after this is all done, if you have any questions about becoming a B Corp or stuff we're doing, or need help with something you're doing, I probably have 4 or 5 companies I'm working with now. And when I say work with, it's not like I work with them per se, but that have reached out to me that says, we're thinking about doing this. What can you, what do you think how does it work? And I kind of walk them through, and then they bounce some stuff off me that they're doing, and then if I can help, I help. But so I offer that to anyone here as well. But if anyone has any questions, I am open to questions.
I just wanted to thank you, Bob, for being so eloquent in some of the challenges that you faced. And we really appreciate the transparency, because it definitely wasn't a straight line there. And we understand that generationally, the senior Bigelows may have not understood what you're trying to achieve there. So there's many generational issues here. And I know we have so many questions in the chat box. I'm not sure we have time to get to it. But I just want to say before we go much further that Bob is an advisory board member of Conscious Capitalism, and we at Conscious Capitalism see B Corp as being, a sister kind of organization. We really appreciate the fact that B Corp offers a very detailed certification process. We don't at Conscious Capitalism. But we do agree on so many things that are really important, and this is the way we should conduct ourselves at the moment. So, and really, I think just to be respectful of Bob and everyone else here, what we might do today is, and this is the surprise for Bob, but invite him as a guest at one of our future Curious Capitalist podcasts, and that might give him an opportunity to just touch on some of the questions. There are quite a few in the chat that could be sort of fodder for a future podcast. So I hope Bob is agreeable to that, and that might be a good way of continuing the sharing and learning that we've got here today. Eleanor, did you want to jump in with one or two to wrap it up?
Well, I think we covered pretty much all the questions were at least touched on. They can go deeper. I think the effect on employees maybe was one. If Bob wants to talk about how you celebrated the B Corp certification within the company and what direct reaction the employees had.
So we celebrated it. So that's after you submit your score, then you're kind of not so much on pins and needles, but you know, we submit our score on, let's say we're like 88. Then they ask you some questions, they whittle it down to 87. Then you get down to 86. It's like, Jesus Christ, they're going to take away all our points. We're not going to get this thing. So there's a lot of pressure for like a couple of weeks while they're doing that review. So, you know, as soon as I got the email that we were certified, I went to, ran over to Cindy Bigelow's office and just interrupted whatever meeting she was had as telling her. And, you know, she was all excited about it. And then we quickly made or Cindy quickly made like a, you know, a 30-second iPhone video that we quickly, you know, emailed out to all the employees so they knew what it was, that we had done it. And again, not everyone necessarily understood what that meant either. But then we celebrate it by, you know, we had different events in the facilities and T-shirts and that kind of stuff. And I left that part up to someone else. My part was done at that point. So I'm not the party person, but we did celebrate because it is worth celebrating because it's any certification is, because they're all difficult. Some are more difficult than others, but.
Okay, well, we like to be respectful of everyone's time, so we'll leave it there, but we will attempt to get some of these questions. And as I know, we have Jennifer and Kerry who are deeply invested in these big ideas as well. Let's continue this conversation another time, and we'll sign off for now, and we'll see you soon.
Okay. And then if you get me those questions, I'll do my best to answer them. I can just send them back to you. Or, you know, I don't know if anybody got my email address. I did put it out before, but it's just rhendrick@rcbigelow.com. And if you could just email me any question you want. I'll try to go through those questions. I'll get them back to Glenn, and then, you know, Glenn can send them out if people are, you know, interested. Or it sounds like he just talked me into doing something else, so that's fine too. So.
No commitments.
All
Thanks,
right.
guys. Appreciate
Okay,
it.
thank you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Bob.
Goodbye.
Thank you.